welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us. Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. It's Andy Goldman, of course, joined by Mike McLaughlin. It is week 8 that we are heading into here on Taking It to the Streets. We'll get to our pick shortly. This show is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical. Wrightwood Medical can be reached at www.wrightwood, that is WRIGHTWOOD medical.com, or directly 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100, Wrightwood Medical, the leader in refurbished medical equipment. All right, Mike, I hope you're well. I know you've been on the road this week. You are the leader of our head-on at 12-9 and 9-12, but as I told you through text, I wanted to talk about on this show quickly, if I can. You know, the digital highway takes you to places that when you and I were younger, you never would have thought of, good and bad, and it introduces you to people, good and bad, and it's a different thing. The people that know me, my friends, family, would know that my favorite movie of all time is Breaking Away, 1979. Dennis Quaid, Paul Dooley, a brand new Dennis Christopher, who played Dave Stohler, Daniel Stern, Jackie Haley, Bad News Bears. Just a real classic, especially if you're from the Midwest. The story basically talks about the Cutters, the cycling team from the Townies. So the Cutters, the slang term that referred to the Townies, whose parents were limestone quarry cutters. And they put together a cycling team for the Little 500. The Little 500 still exists this day. It's a huge, huge event at IU. And it's a big cycling term that basically includes all of the fraternities amongst townies that go at it. And there's a lot to the story. The working title was Bambino, which should say a lot. So Bambino is Italian for child or baby. It's a coming of age of stories of kids, buddies that are townies, that are the Cutters, that are integrating with affluent college kids. It's such a gutsy tale and so incredible. You almost think when you're watching it that you're seeing a documentary. When I really think about it. And I've only seen it a couple times. It's stuck with me so many times. I saw it in the theater as a 9-year-old, but I've seen it a couple times, and it gets to me every single time I see it. It's just unbelievable.
I should tell you, Andy, I weirdly made my wife watch it like maybe 6 or 8 months ago. I said, this is a great movie. And I mean, she's like, what the hell's going on? Why is the guy talking Italian? He lives in Indiana. All right, she ended up loving the movie, which sports movies and her don't always get along, but it is a great movie.
Yeah, it's just very touching and on so many different levels. And I think especially if you're a male, I mean, it speaks to boys way more than it's going to speak to girls, I think. Was when I've had this conversation, it's always with men, and we all kind of, have a group cry over it, especially at the end when of course the Cutters win. Here's where I'm going with it. So about the digital highway. Somebody who knows somebody must have known my affinity for Breaking Away and felt the need to reach out to me and say, hey, the guy that Dave Stohler was inspired by, Dave Stohler's the lead character in the movie, still lives and he's alive. And here's for you Breaking Away fans out there, a little bit of backstory about the story. Steve Tesich, who's no longer with us, he died at 52. He's the screenplay writer for Breaking Away. He went to IU. He was from Serbia. He moved to East Chicago, Indiana when he was 14. Went to IU, then he went and worked in Brooklyn as a welfare caseworker. Hated it. Wanted to be a playwright. Wrote a couple of plays. They were well received. They were off-Broadway. Olympia Dukakis was in one of them. He decided he wanted to write a screenplay. There was a guy in his fraternity, if you remember, folks, it was the Phi size. I think they might have even used the Phi size in the movie. But there was a guy in this guy Tesich that I'm telling you, in his fraternity in the 60s that was called upon. He was a ringer. He had to wait a year to be part of the Phi size who were a dominant cycling team at IU. We'll call him Dave Blase, okay? We name names on the show. Forgive me, Dave. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. It's Blase. And we'll just, for purposes, we'll call you Blaze. So Blaze waited out a year, then he joined the Phi size. And true to the script that Tesich wrote, the team basically crapped out very early on in the 200 laps that is the little 5. There was 139 laps left. That's more than a ton of the race. They strapped Blaze into the bike, and the Phi size won the race. And Tesich was an alternate on that team. So the inspiration of Dave Stohler came from this incredible story about Dave Blase, who still exists, who still rides apparently in the countrysides of the Midwest. I don't know if he's still in Bloomington. The guys I chatted with are from Ohio and said he's still a ringer. He's in his 80s. So when you think, folks, about those pack of old people that are out every Sunday morning in their spandex outside your front door and they're ripping by, Dave Stohler still exists in some form with those guys. And they said he's in his 80s. He's still unbelievable, and he can still cut it. He wants to come on Taking to the Streets, but here's the funny part. It's true to, if you are a real Breaking Away fan and you think about Dave Stohler's character, he's completely not into technology. So it has zero part of his life, apparently. So it's going to be extremely difficult to have on Dave Blase on this show if he's not willing to give us a little bit, meet halfway. We've got so many questions to ask him. But I close with, this show started, Mike, inspired by a lot of characters that are like Dave Stohler. And I think of the people that I brought on, like Rich Bean, that has a bit of that in him, that Rocky kind of narrative to him. I think of Peggy Kaczynski, who I had on as a pioneer in Chicago, female sportscaster. I think of William Gates, who was one of the characters from Hoop Dreams who came on the show. Brian Chavez, who rose from a difficult upbringing in Odessa, Texas, was one of the core members of the Friday Night Lights teams. And so that really resonates to me is characters like that are real. So Dave, if you're out there listening, please come through with the 2025 technology requirements. It won't require a lot. I'd love to ask you about Steve Tesich. I'd love to ask you about those 139 laps that you won at the Little 5. And, Mike, I close with Steve Tesich was a real incredible. Breaking Away was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. They won 1, which was Best Screenplay. Again, this is a caseworker in the welfare department in Brooklyn. So Tesich won the Academy Award for it. He later goes on and he writes Eyewitness. He writes the screenplay for the John Irving book, Garp. Died tragically at 52 of a heart attack. His dad was a machinist from Serbia. He died young too. So I just felt compelled because, like I said, those guys kind of reached out to me and I talked to them, and it was serendipitous because I'm a huge Breaking Away fan, and anything that has to do with Breaking Away, I'm completely excited about. What I know that's a little much, but where do you have a memory, Mike, of seeing Breaking Away?
I will tell you, is it gonna be available in Italian audio as well? Since he always talked to his parents, it was funny. It was one of the first movies that played on HBO all the time. And I used to love it, and you always root for the Cutters. It looks like so cool to be able to jump into those quarries and do that stuff. And you've got a young Dennis Quaid and, Kelly Leak from the Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
and the guy from Home Alone and Daniel Stern, right? And no, it was an amazing cast, and on what seems sort of like maybe not the most interesting story at first, and the character development, everything about it. It was one of my favorite movies. It is a very underrated sports movie. I would agree.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about it as a way of segueing into teams that are breaking away from the pack.
No, I was not. And on a final little tidbit about the story that Tesich wrote, the screenplay, is he basically took the Dave Blase story of riding those 139 laps by himself, the last 139 laps of the Little Five that year, and he made it a little bit of, the Rocky part, which is to make the cutters the heroes. That wasn't how it went. The bad guys, the fraternity boys, did win because that's what Blase was part of, the Phi Psi fraternity. But Tesich, to his credit, knew that the story would be more compelling if the cutters could be the one that rode, the 140 laps and bled and toiled to the victory in Bloomington. So we'll close with that. And like I said, Dave, if you're out there, just absolutely would love to have you on and talk about breaking away. It would be incredible. Mike, we segue to the lighter note.
Andy, I will say one thing. If it's any consolation, I still hate all Italian racing cycle teams because of what they did to the main character.
Right. When they clipped him, when they kicked his spokes out in the countryside. Yeah.
Yep.
While he was and while he was chasing after the Cinzano truck.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Mike. So here we are. You're 12-9. I'm 9-12.
More importantly, I'm 2-2 head to head now. I mean,
you're duly noted. You beat me. You were 2-0. Against on me head on. We're even 2-2 on that for the year. So it's been a bit of a battle. What do we need to know that we might not know that occurred this weekend?
Well, I don't know if you saw the Raiders. I'm sure you obviously saw the Raiders Chiefs game, but I saw this statistic that just sort of unbelievably shocking. The Chiefs had more points than the Raiders ran plays. They had 31 points. The Raiders ran 30 plays. And it's one of those things we go back and I don't necessarily agree with you that running backs, there are great running backs. I think they're few and far between, but their offensive line, taking a running back made absolutely no sense. And it's, Genti, when they basically brought back every single one of their starters on a bad running team last year. It's like, if you can get a good offensive line, you are going to be so much better long-term than you are having an elite running back. And even because they don't become elite unless they've got a great line in front of them. They've got, Colton Miller's been out, but I mean, are we sure that coaches should be coaching at 70 plus anymore? I mean, between Belichick and Carroll?
I think Mark Davis is ignorant enough that he thought when he got Pete Carroll that he was getting the offensive line that Seattle had on their Super Bowl team, and that when he goes out and gets Genti, that was going to be Marshawn Lynch. And those are fantasies. Those are delusional. Those are very, you're a lawyer, Mike. Those are ignorant thoughts that are complete. That's like saying that I have hair. Okay. It's a complete falsehood. The Vegas Raiders couldn't be further away from that Seattle team that Pete coached. And Genti is a miniature version in size and talent of Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's starting to be one of those things. It's like the Jordan, and I always sort of bring up Jordan because I think he's the best basketball player that I've ever seen. I didn't see the old guys, but he was a terrible owner in Charlotte. I mean, he was like one of those guys who just could not get it right. Is Brady heading down that path? I mean, I don't think long-term that Brady will, because I think that I like that they brought in Spy Tech. I think they will start to get it right. But as an organization, I mean, Las Vegas is a clown show right now. I mean, and I just am shocked that a team could only run 30 plays in a game. I mean, it had 3 first downs, and one of them was because of a penalty. So that's like mind-boggling to me. The other thing I was going to talk to you about is the Giants Broncos game.
Yep.
Do you consider that a Giants loss, or did the Giants lose the game, or did the Broncos win it? Because I have a clear picture of what I think.
I know you'll say the Giants lost it, but I do think the Broncos won it. Because I am of the belief that there's a ton of parity in this league and not mediocrity. Big difference between those two words. And I think it was a bigger than life effort. And I also think that was confirmed with the Denver effort at Philadelphia. So it makes me believe that it was Denver, not the Giants, that let down. It is Denver to me.
Okay. And the reason there's a couple of reasons I'll disagree with you on, and that's what makes things interesting. But one, 3rd and 5 in the 4th quarter, Jackson Dart cannot throw an interception. And that's coaching. The second thing that has become a problem, and the Giants haven't corrected it now 2 years in a row. Graham Gano, former Florida State kicker, sort of routinely injured. And the kicker that they had on Sunday was the backup kicker at Rutgers, the powerhouse that is Rutgers. He wasn't even the starter. He qualifies as their kicker because he is part of the international program. So they're saving money on a position where making 2 extra points wins you that game. He didn't miss 1 extra point. He missed 2 extra points. That changes the dynamic of that game. So it's not simply me looking at it saying that the Giants happened to blow this game in a spectacular fashion, and it was as spectacular as almost anything we've seen, maybe even more so than the Ravens-Bills game. But you just can't blow that game.
No, I don't, Mike, I don't apologize.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, I'm not apologizing at all for the Giants, but I do think that there's a line of reason and logic here that the Broncos have to be beaten. And they are not going to quit for the 60 minutes. They've proven twice now. And the Giants are weird. They beat Philly soundly without, neighbors. So it's fun to beat up on them and look at them like they're a terrible team. They're really not. So I would tend to give the credit. I totally agree with what you're saying. There's coaching. It's a meltdown.
I just think it's malpractice on the part of the organization to not have, when you have a player who's routinely injured, to not have a better backup plan.
Right.
And there are guys you can pick up off the street for a reasonable amount. You should not be relying on the backup kicker at Rutgers. I don't even know who the starting kicker was at Rutgers, but the backup kicker shouldn't be on your team because he gets you an exemption under that's being too cute as far as I'm concerned. That especially at a position where, hey, put the guy on IR if he's hurt, but you can't keep going in and out. This is now, last year was remember the Commanders game? Yeah, they should have won that game, and they didn't have, Gano got hurt in warmups, which, hey, that's fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So that one, I lay that at the hands of the Giants. I do think the Giants are showing improvement, but you keep blowing games like this, and just like Cam Ward got his coach fired, you're getting Dave fired, and maybe you should be getting the GM fired for the problems that he keeps having by trying to make these cute moves. That's where I think it's more malpractice on an organizational level. And that's kind of where, the Giants have this Tiffany veneer of being this great organization. They haven't been a great organization in 20 years. I mean, they're a great organization in New York because they're compared to the Jets. They're not a great organization like they once were. And they kind of apparently do everything backwards. Everything goes down from Mara, and they need new blood in there. And I think that's a organizational failure as much as it is a coaching failure, because you do expect a kicker to be able to hit 2 extra points. It shouldn't happen. And you certainly shouldn't miss, you can miss 1, but you certainly can't miss 2. And Do they end up losing the game after? Probably, but I do think that was unusual. I also what's our I mean, I hate talking about coaches getting fired because I've been good at it, but Mike McDaniel is that he's not. I mean, dead man walking, right? I mean,
It appears he's lost that team. There's no question. Because before Tua's meltdowns in the clubhouse, there was Tyreek's meltdowns in the clubhouse. The team, I think they quit on him and at Cleveland. I'm actually surprised that they didn't make a move after the Cleveland game. But at this point, what are you going to do? You're not going to get anybody.
No, and you know that's an organization too that has, I think, failed. You know, with their general manager. I mean, you look at the talent, their defensive backs. I don't think I could name a starting one of them other than Storm Duck, and only because his name is Storm Duck. His middle name is Chandler, which is so weird. How is your name Storm Chandler Duck? I mean, I don't feel like your parents are either cruel or, you know, psychos to call you Storm Chandler Duck. Right. But, you know, their offensive line is garbage. They spent all this money on wide receivers, speed, and speed kills. But again, it goes back to you got to have a great offensive line. If you don't have a great offensive line, nothing works. And
yeah, but like it's also speed, but you have to be wise enough to be the sharp GM and do it like Kansas City does, where they get Worthy late, they have Hollywood Brown as a pickup, and they have Thornton as a pickup. So they have no draft, they have no capital into any of those guys, and they also get speed.
Yeah, no.
What else? Why do you need to invest into high draft capital into speed at the expense of putting it into your line?
It's because it's sexy, but it does, you know, are the Dolphins a winning organization? You know, comparing the Chiefs to almost any organization right now is unfair, and hopefully everybody got their plus 900 bet down on them to win the Super Bowl because they look like a problem. I mean, Rashee Rice came in and they had been saying all during the, you know, when there was speculation that they were going to trade for a number one. They're like, we don't need to trade for a number one. We have a number one coming in week 7. And that offense is there. You know, you said there are not any great teams. They may
like it was Vegas. I had Arrowhead.
I understand. But you don't hold a team to 30 offensive plays without being pretty damn good, in my opinion. I mean, that even, you know, that's a level of, and they're just kind of messing around now. Like you saw Mahomes is like, oh, this play never works. And he faked you know, and he said he got it from his acting. I mean, you kind of tell he was overdoing it. I almost wanted to, you know, suggest he tone it down a little because it would have worked. But I think they are, if they're not in the AFC Championship game, I will be surprised. Okay. So that would, and I've been kind of worried about, I was hoping that the Chiefs would go away. Unfortunately, we are stuck with Mr. and Mrs. Taylor or whatever Mr. and Mrs. Swift for the next several years or until he retires. But
okay.
Yeah, there was some bad football yesterday. And the Bucks, you know, they were due and got just kind of pushed around. I thought the wide receivers seemed like they weren't, you know, that's what happens when you have young guys coming into prominent roles. Tez Johnson looked like either Tez Johnson ran the wrong route or Mike Evans ran the wrong route. I'm going to err on the side of the rookie running the wrong route as opposed to Mike Evans. But it was just, nothing looked right. Seattle, you know, that was a game. How many turnovers were in that game? It was like Texans had like 4 turnovers and still lost.
How do you lose a game with your +4 on takeaways?
I mean, that's how bad.
I think that's more insane. I think that's right on the mathematical scale as the Giants meltdown.
It is, but that offensive line is just hot garbage. I mean,
to be +4 on takeaways and you lose.
That's an organizational failure when you're not building your, you know, I would build offense and defensive line first, hopefully you get your quarterback. But if you get those two things right, everything else works within that. In my opinion, that's just always be strong up the middle on both of those things. Then and try and win with Joe Flacco and that. What was that? The elderly bowl on Thursday night.
Well, I'll give you one. I'll give you one the public really, really struggles with, just like they struggle with the message Vegas always sends weekly with the point spreads. Because again, the public is never, ever going to not bet the better team. Let me repeat that. They are never going to not bet the better team. Ever. Las Vegas understands that. So whatever the point spread is, there'll probably be value on the worst team because of what I just said. One more time. The public will never bet against the better team. So we get a good view of that as a heads up this week with Carolina versus Buffalo. I don't know how much better Buffalo is than Carolina, but again, that's just a game that I would toss out there. That
I am shocked that you're even bringing that. I was like, I've written down what your picks are because I know what you're going to be.
Okay. But I'll throw something else out at you, Mike, is that years ago, growing up in Chicago, and I don't know if it made it all the way across the world, but I think it did. It was when Jerry Krause was running the Bulls. He made that fateful line that management wins championships, not players. That's another thing that the public's never going to understand. They actually think that Jordan won those 6 titles for the Bulls in the 90s. You're never going to make the guy and anyone understand that. You're crazy. Are you kidding me? And thankfully, the history books are writing it as someone who grew up in Chicago and grew up in the 90s watching those teams. There is no Jordan without Pippen. There is none. And Jordan's even said it multiple times. There's nothing, if you want it. Jordan goes on by himself without Pippen to the Wizards and is completely insignificant in their non-playoff team. Now, people, again, imagine, oh my God, that was the end of his career. He was an open. Okay, great. Think that. That's true. But you also have to realize that Jerry Krause went out and got Horace Grant. Jerry Krause went out and traded Oakley for Cartwright because it made sense to get a big 7-footer as a legit center versus a power forward. Jerry Krause drafted Scottie Pippen. Krause actually didn't draft Jordan. That was Rod Thorne right before him. But management, I think, does win championships. And we saw that a little bit last night with Detroit and Tampa. And the blessing from Vegas. All day, I kept looking at the point spread. It went from 4.5 to 5 to 5.5 to 6. Every piece of news that came out was great for Tampa. Again, this time a day ago, folks. Just remember this time, 6:05 Eastern, a day ago. This isn't revisionist history. We're not watching some crazy political show. This time a day ago, Igbokwe and Mike Evans were declared active. The entire secondary that dressed for Detroit week 1 at Green Bay was inactive. Sound good? Not the Vegas.
The jam.
Well, not to Vegas, because they kept going 4.5 to 5, 5.5 to 6. There was no buyback for people that actually matter, like that are part of syndicates that bet tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a key number. They do believe in key numbers. There was no buyback. I don't want Tampa. During the game, guys are falling left and right out of Detroit's secondary. We're down to people off the street playing for Detroit in the secondary. We saw what happened. Tampa was good for 9 points. Somebody knows something. So either you do believe in Vegas and key numbers, and Vegas was not, if you win with Tampa, God bless you, but the smart money was all over Detroit, Mike. And Troy Aikman said it was one of the best defensive efforts he's ever seen in his life. I mean, think about who they had out there last night.
Was that, but during or after him flirting with Joe Buck the entire game? He's quickly.
It was mid-game. It was mid-game.
Those two are
so
little full of each other.
You can't commend the 85 Bears because they're just loaded for bear and talent, literally. But you can commend that team last night who's playing taxi squad players, and they were just absolutely dominant. So I do think this guy Holmes, who's the GM of Detroit, is unbelievable team that he's put together. Here comes the but. They won't be a team that I'll have going to the final weekend of the year because I can't stand their pedigree. I'm a big believer in pedigree. I just am. So until it changes, they're in the same bucket with Cleveland as a non-Super Bowl team ever. That puts them lower than Carolina's 2 visits in a quarter as much time. So here we go again. And I believe in everything that Vegas says. At the beginning of the year, I don't have amnesia. At the beginning of the year, Vegas had 4 teams, I believe, Mike, that they had at 11.5 for the over-under. That is so low. It's insane. Okay? That means that they're telling you the best team in the league we think is 11-6. If they really play beyond their means, they'll be 12-5. That's what Vegas said. Now, Detroit is vastly hurt from the 11.5 over-under. Am I crazy? Detroit's not making it to the NFC title game. They're just so hurt.
I don't agree with that, but I think teams get healthy. It's like I said, you win a game like you did last night, and what they've done in the past is you can't measure a team and say they're the Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland and Detroit.
Like they've never gone to a Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, or Cleveland.
Okay, but that's like saying that the Raiders.
Cubs.
That's like saying that the Raiders are a better organization right now than the Lions are.
That's not what I'm saying.
They don't have the pedigree.
No, I'm saying Raiders and the pedigree. The Raiders have better pedigree than the Detroit Lions. Yes, I'll argue that, but they're not a better team right now. Those are two different.
Not a better organization either.
No, right now they're not. But during the Al Davis,
and they haven't been since Daniel. I mean, since the coach has gotten there, and they've reset it up. You gotta. I mean, at some point, wins matter, and some point, them being in. I mean, I don't.
I'm with you. I'm just saying
revisionist to say that just because the team's never made a Super Bowl, it's few and far between. Like the Jags and the Panthers don't count, even though the Panthers have been to a Super Bowl. But I don't think of. If I was to look at organizations as they sit today, who would you rather have for the next 5 years? The Lions organization, or
let's calm down. It's got nothing to do. No, but it got nothing to do with the pedigree. I'm just saying until you do it, then don't say how great you are until you've done it, because putting that jersey on is mush. They're mush. They're like Cleveland. It's generational. It's like putting the Cubs or White Sox jersey on. You're mush. You're done before it started.
I don't agree with that.
I think they're mush.
We will agree.
Yeah.
This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower-cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower-cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical.
Go on, Mike. You're 12-9. Give us your 3 plays for the week.
All right. Well, you mentioned John Q. Public. I will be rolling with John Q. Public once again this week. I looked at the games. I'm taking the Ravens versus the Bears. I looked at the Bears' schedule and of who they beat. Now, granted, the Ravens have won one game, but The Bengals beating the Steelers on Thursday opened up the AFC North again. And this is a kitchen sink game for the Ravens. I am basing this on Lamar playing. I assume he has to be playing. But if you look at who the Bears have beaten, they barely beat the Raiders, right? Shouldn't have won the Raiders game. If, when I say they shouldn't have won, I just mean
Probability.
they probably the probable win. Yeah, they missed a gimme field goal. Raiders, we know.
Well, and Mike, it's a 52-yarder. That's like Buffalo fans saying that Norwoods was a gimme in the Super Bowl. That was a 49-yarder. It wasn't a gimme.
It's a gimme in today's day and age. That's ridiculous.
52-yarders are gimmies?
2-yarders are gimmies in today's day and age.
I disagree.
But but it got blocked. I mean, that's so.
Yeah.
But
he's a good kicker. Carlson's a good kicker, so it's really improbable.
And it's indoor.
Right.
So, and if you look at who else had the Bears, I looked this up. They beat the Saints. They lost, which we know you get the Eberflus bump. They barely beat Washington 25. Every one of their games that they have played outside of Dallas has been a blowout. Where has not been a blowout. Excuse me. New Orleans, they won. They kind of controlled the game, but I'm not impressed with what they've done. And
they're Tampa.
Well, Tampa's had better wins. They beat the 49ers. Who's the best team that they have beat? Dallas?
Probably. I don't.
Yeah, and Tampa, and I'm not. But again, I have said all along. I thought if you'd given me 5-2 for the Bucs, I'd taken it. And I'm sure as a Bears fan, if you'd given you 4-2, you'd have taken.
Yep.
But I also think that this is going to be Harbaugh versus the new coach, and I just think you're getting the Ravens' best effort. So I know it's 6.5. I was actually surprised. How many times is a 1-5 team or a 1-4 team favor against a 4-2 team? You don't ever see that happen, but I just think this is going to be.
Mike, that's a statement from Vegas saying they know the Bears cannot stop the run. They understand that. They do. They know that the Bears give up 6 yards a crack on the run. This game's all Henry from no matter what happens. If Lamar's back or he's not, I'm sorry to interrupt you while you're doing your games, but this is 100% according to a rational person or an algorithm. Henry 28 times, and the Bears aren't stopping that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just taking it because I think you're going to get everything thrown. You lose this game, your season's over for Ravens.
And what's even more damning, Mike, is Jackson hasn't practiced. It's Tuesday this week.
Yeah.
And the line hasn't moved, which means Vegas is saying, we don't care if Tyler Huntley is behind center because it's going to Henry every single time. And we like laying 6.5 because they're not stopping that. Yeah,
I agree. And then, so I just think I'm going to take the Ravens in that spot. If Jackson comes in, I could see it even potentially moving up, but I doubt it just because I think there will be movement towards the Bears later on. My next game, I'm taking the Packers versus the Steelers. I am not impressed with the Steelers defense. I became a lot more, and it's -3. I became a lot more impressed with the Packers defense. What scares me most about the Packers right now is they still don't seem to be right on offense. I mean, Jordan Love keeps getting all this MVP buzz, and I'm like, what has this guy done? I mean, he's not been impressive, but I could see a breakout game. I was surprised how well Rodgers actually played on Thursday, but again, who did he play against? I look at the defense he played against. It was a bad defense. You and I have targeted the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the Bengals as bad defenses. And looking good against the bad defense can give you overconfidence. And the way they were getting that, Micah Parsons is starting to earn his money. I mean, he was dominant against the Cardinals. I mean, Jacoby Brissett did not look anywhere near as effective. And even though they got down, that game was completely controlled by the Packers defense. And I feel like the Steelers, you can run on them and you can pass on them. They play well when they have a lead and you can get Watt hunting. But if they have to chase or be playing in a game where you can control the line of scrimmage and the quarterback's not having to drop back 30, 40 times, they're nowhere near as effective on defense. And it's kind of surprising. Like they get their best quarterback play in a few years, but with one of their worst defenses, in my opinion. I'm not impressed with the Steelers. I know it's on the road, and it's a revenge game for I don't know who it's a revenge for, Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers, but I'm taking the Pack -3. Go Pack, go. And then the last game, I'm sure you're probably on the opposite of it, so it was entertaining for me to do, and I'd like to go 3-2, but I'm going to take the Patriots over the Browns. I'm not impressed with the Browns. Beating the Dolphins is great. You can run on the Dolphins. I mean, you can run, you can throw, you can do whatever you want to the Dolphins, and Mike McDaniel will probably just look sadly at you with his sunglasses on in bad weather. But I really think that the Patriots are starting to figure things out. I was up in Massachusetts, and they're in love with him up there. I mean, he's probably the most popular player in the city right now, more so than Tatum or Brown, or even there's some baseball Roman guy. I don't pay attention to baseball, but I think that the Patriots, they went into the Tennessee game, and Tennessee may not be a real organization either. And I'm starting to have my concerns about Cam Ward and his tiny little hands, because he seems to be dropping the ball once a week. But I feel like the Patriots are the play. I don't love it at 7, but I'm not afraid of numbers. So I think the Patriots win that game, and I think they win it decisively. Okay. So I took the Ravens -6.5. I took the Packers -3, and I took the Patriots -7. And I don't know if I should go with a square hat or John Q. Public hat, because I'm fitting all these characters that you're naming, and each one of them I have become, and I'm enjoying my role as John Q. Public.
And you're 12-9, which is just rock solid. All right. So I of course am into the numbers part of it. This did not work last week. I'll make the same presentation to you. If it does not work this week, I'll probably try it a third week in a row. So I'm a big believer in the squarest books out there are DraftKings and FanDuel. And the teaser. The teaser allows you to move the line 6 points in the direction of the team you're betting on. So I'm looking for those books where they get a lot of teaser money to be at an advantageous number to the bettor, because we know that that's an oxymoron. Advantageous number to the bettor. So here we go. The Jets +7 over Cincy is my first selection. That opened as Cincy -2.5 at both FanDuel and DraftKings, which makes Cincy a winner on a field goal. Cincy can lose by 3, and you win your teaser. Okay, so we like the Jets +7 for that reason.
And I'm going to ask, you would project that we've seen the last of Justin Fields, right? As a starter in this.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, and I don't think that's a bad thing. No,
and you can still be a serviceable backup.
I feel sorry for him, but I think the answer is yes. You don't pull him like that in frustration to bring him back the week after. I think the boat has sailed, and
especially when Aaron Glenn, like last week, chastised a reporter for asking if he was still going to be the starter. What kind of question is that? And then you bench him after 2 quarters. That was, right. I mean, he needs to go to one of the quarterback whisperers and just take pay cut.
But
learn to play.
I don't see it as a bad thing at all. Per Jacoby Brissett, per Joe Flacco, per Daniel Jones, these old guys can still do it. per Mac Jones, this is the story brewing for this current NFL season, Mike, is the backup quarterback is making a mockery of your starting quarterback. So Tyrod fits very kindly with the group of guys I just mentioned. There's not going to be a drop-off. If anything, that's a big upgrade from Justin Fields. They actually played well in the second half with Tyrod, but he's fresh off the bench. They made that a game. No question.
Yeah. He threw the one bag pick, but other than that,
no, they made it a game. So I like the Jets +7. The other one on the teaser front, Indianapolis opened at FanDuel and DraftKings -12.5 and -11.5. That means that DraftKings, they'll win. Your teaser wins on 6, on Indianapolis losing the game by 6, because it would be 11.5 -6 is 5.5. So that means something to me. That absolutely means something to me. I'll take Tennessee +14. Raise your hands out there, folks, if you had Indianapolis controlling the NFL 7 weeks in. Stand up and raise your hands. That would tell you they're probably a shade overrated. Correct, Mike? Trading a little high. And Tennessee is always, you're always going to get a discount in Tennessee. You deserve it, but you're always going to get a very big discount. So Tennessee points.
Tennessee may be below a penny stock right now for a value. And so I agree. 14 is a lot of points, but man, the Colts are a wagon. I mean, when they get on top of you, every game they've played, other than the Rams game, and even the Rams game, they realistically should be 7-0.
I know.
I don't agree with the problem.
Don't you think there's some regression that's coming for the Colts?
I keep waiting for Daniel Jones to
regress.
Daniel Jones. And, but every single time you watch them, that guy, Tyler Warren, have you seen him? Do people know he's an eligible receiver? Because it seems like he's wide open every game. So I'll give Steichen credit for scheming it up. But how was this a quarterback competition in the summer between he and Richardson? And apparently it was a closer than people expected. Like, people in Indianapolis were surprised Richardson wasn't the call. And they can't, I mean, Jones, they have to be saying, like, they could not have expected this from Jones.
And why did the Bears choose Carlson over Warren if that was the direction they were going? And Carlson hasn't been bad, but he's not a top, like the Bears took him once again, like he was just like they took Komet. They're going to fall in love and be wrong way more times. That goes to my word, Mike, of pedigree. They're going to fall in love and be wrong a lot more times than they're going to be right. That's the deal with a bad pedigree team. They had a chance at Warren. They chose this kid out of Carlson out of Michigan. He's been serviceable. It's nothing that you would spend a top 11 draft pick on. And he's nowhere near where Warren is, just as a side note, Chicago. So Tennessee +14, the last one. Here we go. Know what to do. Head on.
Can I call it?
You can.
Carolina, 7.5.
No. It's going to be a head on against you.
Oh, gotcha. Then that's the Patriots.
No. I'm going to take Pittsburgh plus the 3.
Gotcha.
As a home dog, love it. But I love it more because Green Bay at FanDuel, I'm staying to my narrative. Green Bay opened up -2.5. That makes you a winner on Green Bay if they lose by 3. Don't like that for Green Bay. That's a lukewarm winner. Mike, any closing thoughts as we head to the turn here in the NFL season?
I look forward to being 3-2 and being able to afford my nice John Q. Public square. I had it squared out, but no, it was almost the halfway point, and I'm worried about the Chiefs for the league. I don't like the Chiefs.
I got you. Folks, we'll see you next week here on Taking It to the Streets.
Goodbye from St. Pete. And remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade. So never too high, never too low, till we meet again.